I know it's been a while since I've provided an update on the forums on Project Ghost, but I thought I'd just do a quick video and show off a couple of things that I have done, either in photos, but I think video will help convey a little bit better how some of the new items work. First, just showing off that in some of the photos, the brakes are on and done and plumbed and everything. Now I'm just waiting on wheels and tires. Going to do some measurements here in the next week or so to get some going. The old Torque Thrust 2 did not clear the rotors, so unfortunately I scuffed up the rotors the calipers. Didn't clear the calipers, so I scuffed those up in a couple of places. But I can touch those up later on. And then I've got some small 4 pistons in the back, along with new axles and new brake lines that I bent up. Moving over back under the hood, you can see the bare master cylinder and adjustable proportioning valve, along with the Hydro Boost unit, and you can see kind of some random wiring. The wiring from some of the previous owners was kind of a mess. I'm not going to bother cleaning it up much right now because I do plan on doing a full rewire on this in the next few months, so that's the point at which I'll tidy everything up and make it look more factory. You can see some of the plumbing for the Hydro Boost. So it comes off the power steering pump here and goes through a filter, which then goes back into a T and comes off the Hydro Boost unit down this line back into the T and feeds back into the pump. I did have to cut some of the fender to clear this fitting right here. Again, when it comes time to body and paint, I'm going to kind of make this look nice and a little bit smoother of a transition, but that was just what needed to be done to get it to clear right now. And then for the past couple days, I've been going through the painstaking process of bleeding the system, and that essentially involves making sure that the reservoir is full and then turning the wheel lock to lock about 5 times back and forth, pumping the brakes a couple of times, watching for air bubbles, and making sure the reservoirs tap back off, and rinse and repeat. It took about 30 times, but I think I've got it fully bled now. When I start it up, this doesn't overflow anymore, doesn't like bubble or spill anything out, so I think I've got 95% of the air bubbles out. Hopefully driving it, it'll get the rest out. One thing I did want to show that it's hard to see in photos is just kind of the functionality of the new headlights. So I'm going to put the negative back on just loosely for now. So these headlights are from a company called Dapper. They sell a couple of different 7-inch round headlights. These are their full true projector headlights. So they're actually a good bit, they're probably about this much deeper and bigger than will actually fit in the bucket. So in order to get these in, I had to pull all of this out and get down to the buckets, and then actually take my plasma cutter and cut the bucket opening wider to fit these, because the headlight goes, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see where I had to cut. But the headlight is a lot bigger and deeper than the headlights that were in there before. So had to do a little bit of modification there. Unfortunately, it's something you don't really see once it's done. I don't have a surgeon's hand, so the steadiness with the plasma cutter wasn't great. At some point, maybe when body and paint comes, I might pull these off and clean up the lines on them and then powder coat everything. But we'll see how that goes. So anyway, within these headlights, there's also turn signals built in. So I'll show you how this all works. So first, I'm going to just key on in the ignition, because I did wire these up to have daytime running lights. So we're going to be doing a little bit of back and forth here. I know while we're looking, actually, since we're in the interior, you can see got the new carpet in, got the new TMI seats. They provided a couple more inches of legroom and space, so that's going to be really nice for me. I'm about 6'1", so it was a little bit cramped before. Alright, so key on, just ignition on. I'll bring you back around here to show you what the daytime running lights will look like. So I have daytime running lights wired to these halos at full power. So with headlights off, daytime running lights on, you get the bright halos. If I turn on the park light setting, that's going to kick on the inner halos. Then if I turn on the headlights, and you'll hear a little bit of a buzz, that's just the ballasts and everything kind of heating up, and after a couple of seconds that goes away. You can see I haven't aimed them yet, but you can tell that they do have a very nice cutoff line, like an actual modern HID would, so you're not going to be blinding anybody. When the headlights come on, it's kind of hard to tell in video, but these halos actually dim. They have a dimmer setting, so they're at 50% power. So daytime running light, 100% power. When I turn on the headlights, they go to 50% power. And it's kind of hard to tell too from video, but these are glass. But when I ordered them from Dapper, I had them install some kind of thick, clear rubber coatings on there to help protect from breakage. A really good company to work with so far, so I recommend them for anybody looking for some either square or round headlights. They make them in the 5-inch kit, 7-inch kits, I think the 7-inch rectangle kits now. And they make some that are LED headlights as well that fit without modification to the bucket. The previous owner had actually these two lights in the front bumper wired up for turn signals. I decided to just make them running lights because I'll show you the turn signals now. So those outer halos are what's called a switchback. So when I turn on the left turn signal, for example, you'll notice that the passenger side, the halos stay on. On the driver's side, where the turn signal is, the halo actually switches from a white halo to an amber turn signal. And then just click it over to the right side. Same happens with the right side. When you flip it on the right side, the other side goes back to the halo. The right side, passenger side, turns into the turn signal. And then finally, I'll flip on the brights. I'll show you on the wall here as best you can from 5 feet away, but you can see they are actual projectors where they've got a kind of a lens housing that flips open to actually kick the light higher. So again, you still get a really good clear cutoff line. This isn't a kit where you're just putting an HID bulb into a reflector housing. It's a true projector headlight. So I'll show you the transition again, back to low beam, high beam, low beam, high beam. So anyway, that's the functionality of the headlights. If you have any questions on it, they were pretty easy to wire. There are a lot of different components to it. And certainly when I redo the wiring, I'll clean up everything a bit and probably relocate some of the ballasts and relays and everything. But I think all in all, it took about probably 4 or 5 hours to install with modifications to the buckets and the wiring and everything. So the next thing I'm going to do is I need to do a little bit of cleanup wiring on the radio. It did have an amplifier under the seat that I took out because it wasn't working the way I wanted it to, and it was from the previous owner. So I think for now I'm just going to wire this head unit into the kick panel speakers that will be going back in. And then what I'm actually going to do is hopefully in the next few months be picking up a large-scale 3D printer. For anybody that watched my previous project, Second Chance, they know that I was using a 3D printer to print brackets and stuff for under the hood. I'm going to get a larger scale 3D printer, and I think what I'm going to do is print a custom gauge housing. And then what I'd like to do is print a custom piece that will actually fit in here so I can do some modifications in here. I know a lot of people hate the idea of cutting this up. I probably will end up cutting it up and using part of this lip and placing some nuts like these where I can actually bolt in something that, it could either look like this and have the same form and function as this, but what I'm going to end up doing, because I like adding technology to these old things, is probably doing like an 8-inch screen for, navigation, radio, and everything. Still having the heater controls, maybe doing a push-button start here that's kind of angled more towards the driver. But the idea being that potentially I could make something where you could have some modifications to this and maybe do it without cutting out this whole thing, and maybe just a couple of holes that you'd have to drill to use a studs or to mount a bolt and nut on there and kind of reconfigure this area. So we'll see how that goes. I'm still kind of toying around with what I want to do, but just if you're checking in on this build, just know this is not a build where I'm keeping everything original on the inside. Other upcoming changes, I'm going to be adding a different rear view mirror. I've actually found a company that makes the mirrors, I think, for like the new Chevys, like Chevy Bolt, that actually it's a mirror, but it also utilizes a camera, so that you can look through the mirror and it looks like you're looking through the mirror, but you don't see any of the obstructions that you would with a mirror because the camera sits on the outside. So that'll be kind of neat. And actually what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to use that same 3D printer, and I'm going to come up with a new housing for this that's going to include on the bottom a white LED strip for lighting up the cargo area when you turn it on. On the top, there's going to be a red LED strip for a third brake light, and then in the center, there's going to be the housing for the camera so that you can use that for your rearview mirror. So keep an eye out for that. Again, that's probably going to be some months out because the printer I want's kind of expensive, but that will allow me to do some production quality prints in there. So that's all we have for now. As the interior continues to develop, I'll be doing some TMI door panels, TMI dash panel, and then eventually pulling that stuff out when it's time for body and paint to kind of repaint the inside, probably a grayish color, and then doing some custom, headliner and some leather or suede in different areas with some sound deadening. So long-term plans, we'll see how long it takes. And yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you later.